Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This is going to be a very quick audio recording again. In this audio clip, I want to talk about principalities and powers. I'm not going to spend too much time in this recording. I want to make it as brief as possible because there ain't really much to say. It comes down to this. In Ephesians chapter 6 in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul makes clear that we, believers, are not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, rulers of the darkness of this age, against evil spirits in high places. In some translations, it says rulers of the darkness of this world. Now, there's been much teaching out there about fighting against demonic strongholds, about not giving legal rights to evil spirits. I want to go down to the root, okay? There's nothing wrong with understanding how evil spirits operate and all of that. There's nothing wrong with it. But still, that doesn't go to the root of it. Look, the powers of darkness, they operate based on accusation. That's really their foundation. And when you look at the world, that means all unsaved people. When you look at the kingdoms of the world, I mean the empires, the nations, all of that, they're all founded on accusation that's expressed by assassination. You can go to any nation that was founded and you will find scapegoating, a scapegoat murder or a series of scapegoat murders at the foundation of the nation. That's human sacrifice. I've already talked about that. But before assassination takes place, there's always accusation coming first. Accusation will always lead to assassination. Maybe not physical assassination, but it will lead to assassination of character or of the destruction of quality of life or to some kind of assassination. So look, foundation, and let me say the accusation is the foundation of the world system. And those unclean spirits, they need accusation in order to operate. It's because there's accusation, there is darkness. Because accusation can only operate in darkness. That means exclusion of light, exclusion of truth. So if the world system is founded on accusation, that means that everything that comes out of it is also an expression of the same accusation. Let me repeat this. If the foundation is accusation, that means that all the copies of that world system, because when you look at countries and empires of history, they're all copies of one another at the basic level, but they have different expressions, and because they have some different expressions, they seem to be different from one another. When you go down to the root, it's the same system that's duplicated. Whether you look at the Roman Empire, the Chinese empires, or the Muslim empires, it all comes down to accusation that's expressed to assassination. The assassination or the founding murders, the ritual murders, are needed to keep the nation and therefore the empire or the kingdom or the state intact. So principalities and powers, when it comes down to the human level, it has to do with principle statements that the collective of people endorse, but they don't know why they are endorsing them. They may have some external motives why they are endorsing a certain thought or a certain high idea, but even those motives are not really theirs. They're just mimicking those motives from their parents, grandparents, and from the previous generations. And then you have powers. Powers are the emotional attachments, not of one individual, but of a whole group towards a principal idea. So principalities and powers, when it comes down to the human level, are, as I repeat, strongholds in the mind, high ways of, exalted ways of thinking that are not based in truth, often not even based in fact. And the powers and that's the mental side, and the powers are the emotional attachments that are enforced upon a population through education, but especially through trauma and through fear, basically. So you have the principalities, those are the mental strongholds, and the powers are the emotional strongholds. And together, society tries to find an equilibrium of the two. And when the equilibrium is the status quo. That's the state of bondage, of emotional mental bondage that keeps everyone in a mechanical solidarity, in a mechanical way of operating. But this can only function when there is darkness. This means exclusion of light, and that means exclusion of quality. So, and of course, evil spirits are behind it. They are basically ruling those people without people being aware of it. But the thing is, how do you disarm a principality and disarm a power? Simply by not taking it seriously. I can basically stop this video right now. Because a principality can only get a hold of your mind, and it can only build a power base in your heart, is your emotions, if you take it seriously, if you take it for granted. So when you have the thoughts of the world that are, if you conform to the thoughts of the world, you are conforming to the principalities of the world. Therefore, you also are receiving are become attached to the powers of the world, and whether you want or not, you'll begin to act out those mechanical structures. So when people are acting out against you, it's because you are not in agreement with the mental equilibrium, which is the status quo. But here's the thing, the status quo is a very unhealthy state. The Most High never endorsed the status quo. Everywhere you look throughout scripture, the Most High was inflicting the status quo and disrupting the status quo. And people who didn't endorse it, didn't like it, but the Most High did not care, because the status quo is a state of bondage. It will stagnate you and will impoverish, and it will impoverish your soul. But you're not aware of the impoverishment when you're stuck in the equilibrium or the status quo. So, in spiritual warfare, how do you disarm a power or principality? When it comes to you, don't take it seriously. And I'm going to give a very short example. Let's say that you have Johnny. Johnny is 14 years old. And Johnny was always told that you have to speak in an affirmative way towards older people, especially your parents. And, well, it's a statement. Johnny never questioned the statement. Johnny, who's now 14 years old, he encounters a guy who's 17 years old, and this guy speaks very directly towards older people and also to his parents. And his parents are having a transparent, open relationship with that other guy of 17 years old, but Johnny, who's 14, who's seeing this, becomes frightened and annoyed. Why? Because Johnny identified with the principality, therefore he's stuck at the power, and that's why he's stuck in an equilibrium. That means that he has this deep urge, this deep addiction to validate the equilibrium. Therefore, he has this urge, this violent urge to defend the principality and the power. So whenever he sees that guy of 7 years old, let's call that guy of 7 years old Richard, when he sees Richard being direct towards people, he becomes offended, and because he feels threatened, he builds up this imagination against Richard and this emotional wall against the imagination he has generated. So now he's resisting an imagination of Richard, and he's thinking that Richard is an imagination that he's generating based upon his version of what he saw happening. So now he has a dislike, he has this pain towards Richard, and Richard's not aware of it. And one day, Johnny lashes out because the negative energy, the pain and hurt inside has grown so much that he needs to discharge himself because he's getting out of control. What happened now? Did Richard harm Johnny? No. What happens was Johnny is in bondage, yet he's one thinking he's free. So when Johnny When the pain that Johnny felt when he saw Richard being directed to his parents and other older people than him, that pain is not caused by Richard. That pain is something that legitimately belongs to Johnny himself. Because he's the one in agreement with something. He's the one that's unconscious, or better said, in darkness. Not Richard. But that's how it works in the world. In the world, you are being held accountable for how someone else chooses to feel. I say chooses to feel. Of course, you are responsible for the impact you have on someone else, but you're not responsible for how someone else chooses to feel. Because when you choose to hold on to some principality and to be attached to some power, you're the one choosing to remain in that equilibrium, and you're the one that has to endure the weight of it. So others are not responsible for it. But in the world, whenever people feel bad, most of the time they associate the pain with some external thing. They never want to look on the inside, to look what's wrong on the inside with me. They put it on blame on someone else, and most often they join groups in attacking the so-called perpetrator. And I've just used an easy example here. Okay, and the thing is, Johnny, far later in his life, he looks back on the incident and he thinks, why was I so upset? And now Johnny is beginning to realize that, hold on a minute, that Richard is always directly with people, but he has far more open and far more satisfying relationships and friendships with people. And then Johnny looks at himself, and Johnny realizes that, hold on a minute, he realizes how dysfunctional he is, and also how dysfunctional his relatives are. He never noticed it before because he was unconscious or bad set in darkness. And he understood now that the whole principle of having to speak affirmative to older people or to your parents is based upon you being responsible for their feelings. And Johnny realized, hold on a minute, that's a bit sick. Why is the child responsible for the feelings of those that are adults? He began to think, hold on a minute, this doesn't make any sense. And this is quite abusive. So if the parent feels bad, the parent has a right to lash out against a child that can't defend himself. Hold on a minute, what's this for crap? Johnny began to realize, hold on a minute, I've been taking things seriously without questioning them. And that's how Johnny became delivered from the weight that was impoverishing him and was keeping him captive. And here's the thing. If Johnny would have noticed what happened, he would just have thought, oh, Richard is just very direct with people. And if Johnny would have just thought, hold on a minute, I'm not feeling quite well after I finished this. Why am I feeling like this? If he would have begun to ask such questions, it would have been different. But as mentioned before, worldly people seldom want to be responsible for how they think and how they feel. So the easiest thing for them to do is to blame you. Now, there are many principalities and there are many emotional powers that people are stuck in. And here's the thing. When you have a group of people that are bonded by under the same principality and they're stuck with the same emotional weight, nobody's going to notice that something is wrong. But that's why the world comes in packs. That's why you have so much repetition in the world. People have the same hairstyle, the same hair color, often the same type of shoes, the same type of clothes. They speak in a certain way. They become angry a certain way. Why? Because they need that repetition to feel validated at the status quo. Once there's a disruption of it, all the pain and weight and the impoverishment is revealed. And because somebody wants to deal with that, knowledge they are impoverished, they act out. So, should you now fight against people that are in agreement with principalities and powers? No, that's not the best thing to do. Should you agree with them and permit them to have an illegitimate impact and influence upon you? No, that's not, absolutely not. What do? You just agree with Christ and you laugh at those powers and principalities. You don't take it seriously. You take it for what it is, a fiction based on no fact and no truth. And you see the situation for what it is, that people don't want to be responsible, they don't want to be free, so they give themselves over to principalities in order to avoid responsibility and avoid life itself. and they seek for other people to validate their views of life by getting involved in what we call society, the collective distraction, and other minor distractions in their lives. And whenever someone decides to be upset with you because you violated some invisible written norm that they are attached to, it's just them acting out their impoverishment, not wanting to take responsibility for their own condition and not wanting to seek deliverance. Don't just accept anything because you are accused of something. Listen, as I mentioned before, the world system is founded on accusation. So that means that everything that it duplicates is an expression of that accusation. Now, Scripture makes clear when you go to Romans chapter 8, it says that there's no condemnation for Jesus. That means that no accusation will stand against you, because the truth has set you free. So again, do not agree with accusation, because accusation only leads to assassination. How do you disarm principalities and powers? By not taking them seriously. Just do this. Don't try to, debate with powers and principalities through the people that are adherent to it. Don't try to negotiate with them. No, just don't take them seriously. Agree only with what the word of the Most High defends about the world, and only agree with what is in agreement with His promises. Well, that being said, you all, that's it for now, as the video has become longer than I expected. But anyway, enjoy the Shabbat and be at peace.